Senator Peters. Senator Daines.
Thank you, Chairman Thune, and thank you, Minister Neffinger, for testifying today. Pleasure to see you again, as always. Unfortunately, you've not had a quiet 9 months on the job. Terrorist attacks in Brussels and Paris, I think, clearly highlight the vulnerabilities at home and transportation systems will remain a target, and we must remain vigilant. So thank you for what you're doing to secure our nation. I know many ideas are being discussed to modify TSA's practices, to extend perimeters, increase canine presence, amongst other proposals. Ultimately, TSA needs to deploy resources in a fashion that will maximize our nation's security. That also includes protecting rural access points to transportation networks. And speaking of something from Montana, we talk a little about rural access points. The Screening Partnership Program is an effective way for TSA to leverage its limited resources, especially at some of our smaller airports. In fact, out of the 21 participating airports nationally, 9 are actually in Montana. As a voluntary program, how does TSA handle airports that may want to opt back to TSA screening?
Well, you know, they have that option if they like to. If an airport is currently under the Screening Partnership Program with a private contractor and they wish to come back to federal screening, from my perspective, we have to work with them to ensure that that happens. And we try to ensure a smooth handoff from contractor to TSA.
Yeah, and I appreciate that commitment. I have an email from the Montana Department of Transportation. At the Butte Airport, they formally requested to go back to TSA screening. And the response we got back from TSA was that passenger screening would cease at Butte, reverse screening would be conducted upon arrival at Salt Lake. And so I think they were questioning that, how would eliminating screening at a commercial airport actually increase the safety of the national airspace?
So let me look at that. And I apologize for not having that information in front of me.
And I think they're starting to get some verbal commitments now, because they push back strong on that recommendation. But I want to get your commitment to ensure that whether they're TSA or SPP, we can always maintain the level of security at these rural airports. Mr. Neffinger, in 2013, the Inspector General reported that the nearly $900 million spent on screening of passengers by observation techniques, the SPOT program, was unsuccessful. I recognize this was before your time on the job, and again, I'm grateful that you're in this job and working to secure our nation as well as spend our dollars efficiently. Last month, the GAO reported cost-saving opportunities in the canine program. 3 days ago, we read about TSA spending over $300,000 on a randomizer iPad to tell passengers which lane to stand in, left or right. How is TSA reforming to be good stewards and gain the taxpayers' trust?
No, those are good questions, and then the exact questions I've been asking since I came on board. With respect to that randomizer app, that was part of a larger contract, so that not all of that was spent on a randomizer. But nonetheless, it points to some need for oversight. So a couple things we've done. One of the first things I did coming on board was to look at our acquisition program, and I brought in an outside independent agency, the Defense Acquisition University, just to look top to bottom and tell me if they saw any gaps, any process improvements that we needed, and so forth. My concern is best capability at lowest price and best value to the taxpayer. So that's one of the things we're doing, and we're working very hard on improving our oversight, our controls, and the like. And I'm looking across every contract that we have to ensure that the contract is appropriate, that that the money is going to what we think it is, that it's actually providing the capability that we're asking for. So I think that's very important because it's about making sure that we take the limited resources we have and get some results for it.
Yeah, no, thanks for that very granular review that you're leading the efforts on. That's appreciated. Now, as you know, our security is as strong as our weakest link. Enhancements at rural airports strengthen the security of the entire national airspace. You know, the bad guys are going to find weak places to come in. At your confirmation hearing, I asked about the AIT scanners that were to be installed in 2012, and Montana airports are still without them. In response, you committed to evaluate plans to deploy the scanners. This is a specific question to Montana, but again, we're as good as our weakest link. Do you know what the status is of procuring this necessary security equipment for airports in Montana that don't have them?
This is a problem, as you know, across the system. We don't have advanced imaging machines at all the small airports that I'd like to see them. So from my perspective, I'd like to see them deployed 100% across the system. It's really a funding issue at this point. And so the first thing I had to do was look at where we were on funding, what our current procurement schedule was, and what the deployment schedule was for those. That includes upgrading to the current software technology on board and making sure that they meet our standards. So we put together a technology plan. It's a 5-year plan for getting those on board. If I could accelerate that plan, depending upon how we can redeploy our resources. Part of the reason for doing the acquisition study was to determine whether we had funding internally that we could reallocate to greater needs, such as AIT machines.
There's two specifically, and they're two important communities in our state. One is Helena, which is our state capital, that airport. They've been waiting for 4 years for the deployment of the technology. The second is Great Falls. Let me highlight the importance of Great Falls. The Malmstrom Air Force Base is in Great Falls. That is where we control 1/3 of the nation's ICBMs. It's we make sure a lot of our security processes are hardened for obvious reasons. But those would be two airports we've been waiting for 4 years. Our state's capital, as well as Great Falls, again the front door entrance to our ICBM capabilities here for the country. So I'd appreciate if you'd look at that and let us know how that looks.
Will do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Daines. Senator Nelson, I think, has another question, and then we may have a couple.